President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have staged a spectacle of friendship in Alaska, but behind the smiles and the red carpet welcome, nothing of substance was achieved. The highly publicized summit, billed as Trump's chance to deliver on his promise of ending the Ukraine war within 24 hours, ended without a ceasefire, without a deal, and without any accountability for Putin's ongoing aggression. What the world witnessed instead was a show, a leader under international arrest warrant for war crimes being applauded, chauffeured in the US president's armored limousine, and treated not as an invader, but as a valued guest. Trump rolled out the red carpet and clapped as Putin walked toward him, offering not condemnation, but camaraderie. They laughed together, praised each other at lecterns, and even hinted at future visits in Moscow. Putin, smiling at the fanfare, called Trump a dear neighbor. Trump, glowing from the flattery, returned the compliment. For Putin, it was a masterstroke. 3 years of diplomatic isolation erased in a single afternoon without him conceding a single inch in Ukraine. For Trump, it was the photo op he craves, even if it meant legitimizing an autocrat accused of mass civilian killings. The theatrics stood in stark contrast to the grim reality. On the very day Trump rolled out his red carpet, Ukrainian civilians were still under Russian bombardment. President Volodymyr Zelensky, left out of the talks about his country's fate, had to plead from afar, reminding the world that, on the day of negotiations, the Russians are killing as well. Yet Trump made no mention of sanctions, no direct criticism of Putin, and instead shifted the burden of ending the war onto Kiev itself. In Trump's words, now it is really up to President Zelensky to get it done, absolving the Russian leader who launched the war in the first place. Democrats blasted the Alaska summit as a dangerous legitimization of tyranny. Senator Chris Murphy warned that the images themselves sent a chilling message, that dictators can murder civilians, face arrest warrants, and still receive applause and limousine rides from the President of the United States. Critics see Trump's behavior not as peacemaking but as pandering, a dangerous gamble that sacrificed principle for optics. Putin, for his part, played the long game. He offered vague talk of understandings and progress while making no actual commitments to peace. He revived old demands about NATO and Ukraine's neutrality, terms impossible for the West to accept, while suggesting that any breakdown in talks would be Kiev's fault. It was classic Putin: evade responsibility, appear reasonable, and let Trump carry the message. The meeting ended in ambiguity, with both men refusing to take questions, scrapping plans for a press conference, and offering only vague statements that sounded more like rehearsed sound bites than real diplomacy. Trump later called the meeting a 10, simply because they got along great. For Putin, that was the victory, being welcomed on American soil, treated as a peer, and escaping without having to change course. The Alaska summit will be remembered not for breaking the deadlock in Ukraine, but for breaking precedent in US diplomacy. For the first time in decades, a US president celebrated an indicted war criminal on a US military base while offering him validation and friendship. For critics, it was a stunning betrayal of American values and Ukrainian lives. For Trump and Putin, it was simply business as usual, two leaders who thrive on showmanship, leaving the world no closer to peace and Ukraine no closer to justice.